What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we'll be doing a full comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A71 and the new Samsung Galaxy S20 5G. Now, I think this is a really interesting and worthwhile comparison for a couple of reasons. The A71 is currently the newest and most expensive A-series device, which, if you don't know, the A-series is Samsung's sort of budget and mid-range line, while the S20 is, of course, Samsung's latest flagship phone, the best of the best. Now, technically, this standard-sized S20 here is the cheapest new S-series device you can buy right now when you compare it against the rest of the S lineup, which includes the larger S20 Plus and S20 Ultra. Samsung did away with the E phone, like the S10e from last year, which I think is pretty surprising. And what that means, basically, is that if you're trying to get a brand new Samsung device right now, and price is a little bit of a concern for you, you'll likely be looking at the most expensive A-series device versus the cheapest S-series device. And like I said, that's exactly what we have here. Speaking of the price, that's the first thing I do want to talk about because it's probably the single biggest difference between these two devices. The A71 right now retails for around $400. It's $399 on B&H Photo, and there are a couple listings on Amazon that have it selling for around that same price, sometimes a little more with a bundle deal. But that $400 mark is what I'm going to use as my price point for this video. The S20, on the other hand, has a retail price of $999. That's what you'll see from Samsung, B&H Photo, and Amazon, but there are a couple of things I want to point out. Amazon currently has a bundle deal going right now where if you buy a new unlocked S20, they'll throw in a free pair of Galaxy Buds and a Duo wireless charging pad, which adds a pretty good chunk of extra value. Amazon also has some listings that offer the S20 by itself for well under retail already, something like $860. And of course, you can trade in your old phone that you already have to Samsung for credit towards a new S20 as well, which will also bring the retail price down. So all in all, you have some options in saving money or getting a good bundle deal. But I still want to use that $999 price point for this device, since that is the official retail price. And if you're interested in doing some comparison shopping of your own, or maybe you want to take advantage of one of those deals that I mentioned, I will have links to everything down below in the video description, so check down there so you don't miss out. Now, price point is just the beginning when you start to compare these two devices. And I think the next big thing to consider are the physical characteristics of these two phones. Obviously, size-wise, you can see a huge difference already, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But another important thing to consider is actually the materials that these phones are made of. The A71 has an all-plastic body and frame, sort of unofficially dubbed Glastic because it mimics glass, but it isn't. It still feels like a premium, high-quality phone in the hand, and it looks fantastic too. And one of the benefits of being made from plastic is that the device isn't as delicate if you do end up dropping it. All in all, Samsung did do a super nice job with the build, even though we get cheaper materials. But side by side with the S20, which is constructed of glass and metal, you can feel the difference. The S20 feels sturdier and more premium, a bit heavier too, even with its smaller overall form factor. And while it probably will shatter if you drop it on a hard surface, the phone itself gives off that super premium feel that most people are familiar with when they use a flagship phone. Still, it's kind of hard to tell just by looking at them that these phones are made from entirely different materials. You get a shiny rainbow effect across the back and nice looking polished edges all around. And for me personally, the materials aren't necessarily a deciding factor in choosing one phone over another. Taking a look around, there are a couple more physical differences, the first of which has to do with the placement of the SIM and SD card tray. On the A71, it's located on the left side of the phone, while the S20 has it on top for whatever reason. On the right side, the volume and power buttons are mostly in the same spot, and underneath you can see a couple more important differences. The A71 retains the headphone jack, while the S20 has long removed it. And there's also a difference in speakers too. The A71 has just the one single downward speaker there next to the charging port, while the S20 has a similar one down below along with a second one in the earpiece for a dual stereo sound. And when you're playing your content or games out loud, the difference is pretty significant. Take a listen. Overall, the S20 offers louder, better sound with a nicer listening experience over the A71. I think the A71 is still fine, but folks coming from stereo speakers on any other phone will certainly miss that experience if you go with the A71. Okay, so let's talk about size, since I think this is one of the more obvious differences. The standard size S20 is a 6.2-inch device, while the A71 is a 6.7-inch phone. I guess maybe a more fair comparison would be to pit the A71 against the larger S20 Plus, and you can sort of see what that looks like here, but that's a different phone with a higher price tag and some additional features, so I'll save that for a separate video. If screen size alone is something that's important to you, obviously you can get an incredible value going with the A71 over the S20. One thing I do want to point out though, all the way around, the display on the S20 has noticeably smaller bezels than the A71, which means you're getting a better look and greater screen to body ratio. So yes, those bigger bezels are a contributing factor to the A71's overall size, and that's not necessarily a positive. And one other thing to just quickly note, while both phones have the Infinity O camera cutout, the S20's is significantly smaller than the A71's, though I don't really see that being much of a factor overall. Obviously, with these two phones, screen size is just one small element. The big difference here is the actual display technology. The A71 offers a really respectable Super AMOLED Plus panel with a resolution of 2400 by 1080 and a pixel density of around 393 pixels per inch. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I think for the price, the A71, the A51, and the other cheaper A-series devices in the lineup all offer exceptional displays. They're bold, they're bright, and they look good from every angle, but they are truly no match for what Samsung delivers on the S20. This phone has a dynamic AMOLED 2X screen with a maximum resolution of 3200 by 1440, cramming 563 pixels per inch in a smaller form factor. Side by side, the color, clarity, and the detail are all significantly better on the S20, and that should come as no surprise. You've got a brighter, more saturated picture that looks crisp and sharp, and like I said, while the A71 still looks good, the S20 just looks significantly better. Beyond that, the S20 also introduced 120Hz refresh rate for the first time from Samsung, and this is an entirely different element that I think will depend on how you personally feel about it. If you don't already know, a 120Hz display offers a smoother, more fluid experience overall, something that's more pleasing to the eye. It's hard to capture on camera, but the S20 feels a lot more smooth with that 120Hz refresh rate option enabled. For some folks, honestly, they probably don't care or maybe wouldn't even notice, and that's okay. And you should also know that you can either run at 120Hz or QHD, not both. So you sort of have to choose if you want a fluid feel or more detail. Overall though, obviously the S20 is not only significantly better when it comes to the display, it also offers more options and features, and potentially a drastically different viewing experience for the user. And just a quick side note, both phones pack an in-display fingerprint reader, and while I find the S20 to be a bit quicker, overall, there isn't a huge difference here, in my opinion. In addition to the display being a significant deciding factor, the other big thing to consider with these two phones are the specs inside. First off, in regards to battery capacity, the A71 packs a 4500 mAh battery, while the S20 has a 4000 mAh inside. Now, in my opinion, you won't be seeing drastic differences in battery life between the phones. I found the A71 to be better overall, but not by a significant margin. Both phones last a full day and then some, and it's really going to depend on your usage. There are just a lot of other factors to take into account since these phones are so different. And I don't necessarily consider battery life to be a game changer one way or another. Interestingly enough, as far as their charging speeds are concerned, both phones support the super fast 25 watt standard, and I can really appreciate that. With the S20, it's obviously expected, but getting the fastest possible charging speeds on the mid-range A71 is a really nice addition. Inside, the A71 is powered by a solid Snapdragon 730 chipset, Adreno 618 GPU, and either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, depending on the model you go with. And honestly, those are some of the best internals for the price in my opinion. I'd classify them as a bit better than mid-range. and overall, the device is going to be a good investment if you'd like to keep it for 2 or 3 years. The S20, of course, gets basically the latest and greatest specs, including the Snapdragon 865 processor or Exynos 990, the Adreno 650 GPU or Mali G77, and 8 gigs of RAM in addition to UFS 3.0. Altogether, this makes the S20 one of the most highly optioned device out right now, and a great performer for both everyday use and for more intense games and multitasking. You might be surprised to find out, however, that just casually launching apps and switching between things, the speed difference between the A71 and S20 isn't too terrible. And I believe it's not because the S20 is doing a poor job or anything like that, just that the A71 is a surprisingly quick phone. Both devices ship with the latest version of Android and One UI as well, so the user experience is as smooth and up-to-date as you can ask for. Realistically, the S20 is going to be the better long-term investment and overall the powerhouse device for users who demand a lot from their phones. But the A71 still has a lot to offer. And if we're talking about overall value, bang for your buck, the A71 is actually going to be my choice. Now, I think one of the biggest things that separates the A series phones from the S series phones is the camera capability. Samsung has done a nice job improving the front and rear cameras on the A series devices, and the A71 takes fantastic pictures, but it's simply no comparison to the S20, which is probably a top 3 picture taker across the entire smartphone space right now. Hardware-wise, the A71 has a 64 megapixel f1.8 main shooter, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide lens, a 5 megapixel depth sensor, and a special 5 megapixel macro lens, which is actually unique to just the A series right now. The S20 offers a 12 megapixel f1.8 main lens, 64 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. On paper, it seems as though the A71 might offer better hardware, but numbers aren't everything. In practice, the S20 can capture better, more highly detailed pictures in far more lighting conditions and in less than ideal situations. The S20 is also going to be a better picture taker because of the better processor and internal specs as well. As far as the differing features, the A71, like I said, offers a macro lens, which allows for super up-close photography. I don't find it all that useful, but it's an interesting addition nonetheless. The S20, on the other hand, offers something I find way more useful, a telephoto lens. This not only allows for a hardware zoom, optical, not digital, which means clearer zoomed in pictures than what the A71 can offer, but it also drops the need for that depth sensing lens that the A71 has. Both phones offer basically the same software features and settings for the cameras. You might find an extra option here or there, but all the major ones, night mode, live focus, super slow-mo, pro, they're all basically the same. And for the shooting modes, the big addition to the S20 is an 8K video mode. That's obviously not offered on the A71, though to be completely honest, I don't know that many people would really take advantage of shooting video in 8K anyway. There are a couple of other technical differences and shooting mode differences between the cameras, but I'd like to save a more in-depth analysis of that for a separate, dedicated camera comparison video. Up front, the selfie cameras are also pretty different. You've got a 10 megapixel f2.2 lens on the S20 and a 32 megapixel f2.2 shooter on the A71. Again, the numbers by themselves don't tell the full story here. The S20 can take significantly better selfies and overall has a few more shooting modes and capabilities than what the A71 can offer. Two more things worth considering. The S20 offers an IP68 water and dust rating, which means it'll be safe in up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. I think that's not only pretty important, but absolutely essential for a flagship phone at this price point. The A71 has no water resistance rating at all. This surprised me a bit, to be honest, and I consider the lack of any waterproofing a negative for sure. The other thing I want to mention is that while the S20 can charge wirelessly, the A71 cannot. For me, I couldn't care less about wireless charging, so I don't even think about it, but I did want to at least bring it up for the folks who want it. So here are my final thoughts about these two devices. The S20 is essentially the best of the best. It's part of Samsung's latest flagship lineup, and it obviously offers all of the best specs, features, and capabilities you can get on any smartphone in 2020. The A71 is Samsung's top-of-the-line mid-range phone, and while it can't compete, I think what it does offer is the best all-around value. $1,000 is a lot for a phone, and that's if you aren't moving up to the S20 Plus or S20 Ultra. For around $400, the A71 packs a lot, especially for a vast majority of people who do average everyday stuff with their phone. If you can get the S20 at a discount, trade in a phone, snag a bundle deal, wait a couple months even for the price to go down, then by all means, go for it. It's a great phone. But for less than half the price, the A71 I think is maybe 80 to 85% as good as the S20, and overall will be a solid device for anyone who picks one up. So there you go. That's everything you need to know if you're deciding between the A71 and the new S20. Let me know if I missed anything important, and also be sure to tell me your thoughts down below in the comments. Which phone would you prefer? Also, be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.